Hey everyone, this is week 4 of Bible study, but it is the third and final 320 Life conversation. I'm Wendy Pope, by the way. I am the author of the 320 Life, the life you always wanted and wondered how to have. And mine's all crinkled up because water spilled on it. Really sad about that. But you might just be stumbling across videos. Somebody shared this with you and you have no idea what this is all about. You are entering into the final week of Bible study with us, just with this conversation. And the 320 Life is based on Ephesians 3:20. So look that up in your Bible or look in the show notes, and the link will be there. I'll have a link for the verse. It'll take you straight to it. And I'll have a link for the Bible study if you're interested in that. And if you're not interested in either of those right now, look for anything with this logo on my YouTube page or with this meme, this picture, and watch the videos. We've done 4 live teachings and 320 Life conversations. And this week is our final one. The first week you met my friend Sherry when we talked about, yes, cultivating trust with God. And we talked about, this is Christie, and I'll introduce her like fully in just a minute. But Christie, the first week we talked about yes to God, cultivating trust in God, but what happens when we feel like God's broken the trust. So we opened up with that. And then last week's conversation, or the second conversation, was with my friend Sharon. And Sharon and Christie and I are lifelong friends. We've been friends since 3rd or 4th grade, maybe. Yeah. We grew up at the same church. And if you remember, and if you don't, that's fine. I'm going to just recap. Sharon and Christie and me and 2 other girls have been friends forever. We're in a little group together. We pray together for each other's kids. We travel together, that kind of stuff. So she's one of my people. In fact, she's the main people. And we're talking about with Sharon, we talked about maybe welcoming revelation from God and learning in that second week of Bible study, actually 3rd week of Bible study, about saying no to ourselves and how that shows us the places that we need to be more like Christ. So this week we're winding it up with the last Bible study, and my UPS guy's just driving up. Mitch is just pulling up, so my dog might start barking in a minute. Mitch, she's going to be disappointed because Mitch brings her a biscuit every day. Yeah. The other UPS guy doesn't. She missed her biscuit today.
She didn't hear him.
She going deaf. Anyways, this is live. We're just not editing any of this out because they're going to just see us.
Uh-oh.
Okay, I'm going to get serious here. Maybe welcomes freedom with God. Yes, cultivates trust in God. No, invites revelation from God. Maybe welcomes freedom with God. And when I was praying about this final conversation, Sharon and Christie came right to my mind. And I hesitated asking Christie, not because I don't think she exemplifies this principle, she maximizes it, but because she doesn't like sitting in the seat. In fact, I sat down with her when we were getting ready to start. I said, you do know which one we were here to talk about? And she said, maybe. And we started laughing because we're really goobers. And if you've been hanging around with me for any length of time, you know about bed pants. This is my bed pants friend. Mm-hmm. Bed pants are pajama bottoms or sleep pants that don't have a matching top. We can go into that much later, but this is the bed pants girl. So Christie and I have been friends forever. Gail and Oprah think they're best friends. Mm-mm. They're not.
They don't know.
They don't know. Mm-mm. They don't know. We were in cradle roll together at Hickory Grove Baptist Church. I'm 55. You're about to be 55.
In just a month.
Almost, yeah.
Almost. Tomorrow it'll be a month away.
Exactly.
Or it'll be the next month.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So anyways, I'm a little bit older, but not much wiser at all. She's the wisdom of the two. No. I'm the troublemaker of the two.
No.
Yeah, she's just being nice. Anyways, And the reason I hesitated asking her was because she's the behind the scene person. She's the one washing the dishes. She's the one cleaning up. She's the one taking a meal in a hurry after her long day of work. She comes home and will make a meal for somebody or put it in the crock pot ahead of time. Comes home from work, takes it, comes back, feeds her family. She's been doing service work forever. And if there is ever anybody that I would say loves to serve, it's her. She is the registrar at her school, but she's also head of your service team at school. And y'all, I get excited about a new shirt. She gets excited about putting beds together for children who don't have one. In fact, that was your last service project.
It was.
And you did it on your day off. And that's where a lot of your service comes in. It's either when you're off from work or you're off of work.
Right.
You do this. All right. So when you think of that freedom in Christ, we don't often think of freedom in Christ as a way of serving. I think the thing that comes to mind is, at least initially, is I'm free to do whatever I want. But when you follow closely to Christ, the things that you want to do are the things that he would have you do.
Okay.
Would you agree with that for sure?
Definitely.
So how do you cultivate that in your life? How do you, well, not cultivate, how do you make that work? Because you have 3 children, I have 2, and our children are in between each other. Our babies are about 6 months apart. But you've always made time to serve.
Well, when the kids were young, I made sure to serve in areas where they already were. So I served on the school PTO board. I served in the youth program. I served in the children's program. I worked with VBS. I recruited for VBS.
You ran VBS at one church, practically.
Right. But I always chose to serve in areas where they already were. So it just was a natural extension of that.
Okay.
So
you're saying that you had the freedom at that point, and I would say it's a discipline, because at that point you're choosing, when a lot of women would be choosing, well, I'm going to go to midweek Bible study with my women and my women's group. You're choosing to serve in VBS, or you're choosing to cook meals for the youth on Sunday night, or prepare them, or organize them. You're choosing service, demonstrating that to your family, but you're choosing that over you getting together with your girls.
Correct.
Or with the women in your church.
Correct.
Was that hard for you, or is that hard for you? Because you still do it.
No, I've always been drawn more to service than spending time with my friends. That's not something that I feel I need to have as a break from whatever I'm doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I never felt a need to take a break. I enjoyed the serving. It was the way I rejuvenated. It was the way I got energy from, is by serving and helping. I feel weird talking about it because I think that when you serve, you're serving, you don't want to go around and talk about it.
Right.
Because that takes away from what you're doing. You're
Right.
supposed to be humble about it and not discuss it and not,
Well, you in this moment are being humble, but you're also going to be helpful in helping people understand where to serve, how to choose where to serve, when to say no to certain things, and when to say yes to certain things.
Well, I think you have to be careful. You have to keep your priorities in order. You have to think about, what are you called to do the most? And I have always felt that next to God is my husband and my children, that God called me to be their mother. God called me to be my husband's wife. And so my family has always been a top priority of mine. It's one that I hold very dear to my heart. It's something that I cherish. So after that, anything that I can do to be the hands and feet of Christ, and to not be too taken up with other things outside of my family. So I always made sure that my yeses were important ones that I felt like God wanted me to do. When I was very young, I would take on too much. And I had a hard time with saying no. I had a hard time with the word maybe. I always use the word yes. And so I had to learn that skill that this is the boundary. I need to think about what my priorities are and then go from there on what I say yes to and what I feel that God has called me to do, and not to do it to make other people happy.
So you're saying, how did you get to the place where you decided what your priorities were? That's the first thing for you, and probably anybody that's welcoming, because really when we get to this place of freedom, and I've talked about in the Bible study that it's cyclical in nature. It's not nature. It's not that we say yes to God and we say no to self, then we maybe to others and we're done. It's a cycle. It's a lifestyle that we live. So at what point, and you might not even remember, it might have just happened, did you get to the point that you were like, okay, so it's my husband, it's my children, and then it's whatever else God needs me to do?
Right.
Because you do choose service over your friends. You've always chosen family over your friends, even me. And that's one of the things that I've loved about her. And all of us in our group have loved about her is that we know if there is something family related, Christie's not coming. And it's okay. You've had the freedom to do that. I also think that I want to talk about this in a minute. I want to get back to that question, is there's a security that you have in yourself and in Christ that lets you do that. But let's talk about the priorities. Do you remember when and how you came to that place of Christ is first no matter what, then my husband, then my kids, then service?
I think it's when the kids were young. God gave me the word embrace, to embrace all those moments. A lot of people grow up and say, oh, I want to do this when I grow up. Oh, I want to do that when I grow up. All I ever wanted to do was have a family. So I knew that my family was always going to be a top priority. And God also gave me the word to embrace everything I'm doing in life. Take the time to make that important.
Smell the roses.
Smell the roses. And that's in everything. That's in spending my time with the Lord, spending my time with my family, serving, whatever it is I am doing. I try to embrace every minute of that because I know that it's a cherished moment. So when I got that word, I was also very involved in my children's school at that time. And I felt like I had put myself into a place where I was having to leave them way too many times. And I had said yes to too many things. And I knew that. And we talked, and I was like, what do I do? And so he helped me. And I just right then sat down and made my priorities of, I can't say yes too many times. I've got to evaluate every time I'm asked to do something.
Evaluate, that's a great word.
I have to evaluate it every time I'm asked to do something.
So just because you have the skill set and just because you have the resources and you have the availability, that doesn't necessarily mean
I should do it.
You should do it. Everything has to be filtered. Everything has to filtered through prayer, filtered through confirmation.
Absolutely.
Not just from the word, but I'm sure you don't take assignments without discussing them with your husband.
Correct.
And then also one of the things that I do share too is just survey your whole commitment level.
Absolutely.
You might have this short season, but this season's coming up right after it. And do you want to commit yourself to be very busy right now when you know you're going to be busy later?
Correct.
So look at the whole scope of your commitments.
That's all a part of that evaluation. And I've come to a place now, and honestly for a very long time, that a lot of the serving that I do, I've created. So going to Beds for Kids to put the beds together, I planned that. I planned the Common Heart food pantry. I plan working with the pregnancy center. I plan that for the students that I'm working with. So that evaluation is done prior to planning those, so that I know that I have a place in life to do that.
Exactly.
And I just
it doesn't take away from
my
your
family.
other things.
Exactly. So I always think about what else do I have planned? What else is going on in my family's life? When are birthdays? In fact, when I planned one service project, it was going to land on my middle son's birthday. I mean, he's turning 25. He would be okay if I wasn't available. But I thought, I need to reschedule this, and I made it for a later date because I don't want to ever not be available.
Mm-hmm.
So I was still able to
Even at
accomplish.
25.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was able to still accomplish doing that service and helping that organization. I just changed it to a different date so that if possible, I could have lunch with him on his birthday. I would be available.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's that mindset constantly of when you're planning something, when you are given the opportunity to serve. You know, so many times we our motives are not right during service. You know,
Right.
we want to be in charge of something. We want to be ahead of something. We want to have the name behind it, the recognition for doing it. And you've never been that way, ever been that way. I mean, I'm really just like, this is so out of her comfort zone right now.
You have no idea.
But I want to get to that point of the fact that one of the things that I've always loved most about you, and I think I appreciate more now as an adult in a friendship, is the security that you've always had in yourself. You've always had that. So I'll tell the story. I didn't smoke pot because she wouldn't let me smoke pot. I've never smoked pot, never taken drugs. I don't want to say I haven't drank, but because I did. I did things that were not appropriate. But we were somewhere we shouldn't have been, doing things we shouldn't have been doing. And the police, the popo done drove up. The blue lights came on and we went running through the woods. And we ran into, unfortunately, some people from our church. Forgot that that's who it was.
True.
From our youth group.
True.
So I was just gonna try it.
I said, no, you're not.
No, you're not.
No, you're not.
So I won't tell you what my reaction was because it wasn't nice, but it was under the influence of which I said these things. But I did not smoke pot that day, so I give her credit for it. But because had she not been there, I would have. And I don't know where I would have been after that. But so you've always been the one that could say no, regardless of the circumstances. I'm not going to that club. Y'all can go and dance. Y'all can go. It may seem innocent, but I'm married and I'm not going there. Or I'm not going to that restaurant. Or I'm not going to go see that movie. You know, from little itty bitty, you've been that way. Where does that come from?
I don't know. God, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what was cultivated in my house to have me do that and be so strong in that. But I did try to cultivate that in my children from a very young age. When they were getting ready to enter middle school, I would say to them, there's going to be some people you've been friends with a really long time, and they're going to want to do some things that you're not going to be comfortable with doing, and you're going to not want to do. And it's okay to say no, and you may lose some friends along the way, but that's okay because they really weren't your close friends anyway if they're willing to walk away from you because of something like that. And that's the way I've always viewed it from when I was growing up is, well, you really weren't my friend anyway if you're willing to give me up that easily. And so why should I worry about that?
Right.
And I don't know where that came from. I guess God just placed it in me. I don't know.
Because you do have a security in Christ that most women would long to have. Because I believe, at least I know even in my own life, I've always wanted to be in the in group. And I've always felt like I was on the outside looking in, but I know I look back now and I'm thinking that's where God wanted me.
Right.
You know,
Right.
he wanted me to not be in that in group. He didn't want me doing the things that the in group was doing. But there are so many women that will watch this that struggle with that whole identity. And that struggle with, well, if I don't say yes to this group, or if I don't become involved in this, you know, I won't be part of it. And I believe that when we get to this place in the spiritual discipline of saying maybe, learning to say no to ourselves is huge. Because then we begin to take on that image of Christ. And we realize Christ wasn't involved to everything.
Right.
You know, Christ was not part of everything.
That's right.
but there becomes that freedom, and I believe that freedom is also a confidence that we can go, yeah, that just doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a while, and I don't know how long, but I believe I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
I believe I've gotten there,
Right.
but I'm 55. It took me a really long time to get here. But I'm okay to go, yeah, I don't want any part of that.
Right. I think that,
And I'm okay with it.
right. It's never that I didn't want to be a part of something, but I was never willing to cross a certain line. Like I was never crossing the line was worse to me than not being a part of something.
Right.
And my parents, will say are, and you can vouch for this, were very consistent.
Yeah.
In their approach to discipline.
Right.
I hated getting in trouble.
Right.
Honestly, I didn't like getting in trouble, and I knew that if this was right, this was wrong, and I would be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that started at a young age in there. And
Right.
then by the time I was older and was out, and they might not know what I was doing at all hours, whenever I was. Not like now they can track you everywhere you go, but back then, you left your house and
Mm-hmm.
you were gone.
Oh, and when you were in college, they didn't know where you were at 10 o'clock at night.
Exactly.
Or
Or 2
11 or 12
a.m.
or 2 a.m. or whatever.
Exactly. So I just from the very beginning, it was more important to me not to cross the line of what I felt like God did not want me to do than to be a part of a crowd.
So that security, if I'm understanding our conversation and to kind of sum it up, it started with your family and how you were raised, but it started from that parental authority, but it transferred over to your spiritual authority.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And so what a great lesson for the young moms that are listening is to, we joke all the time, make them wear the raincoat.
Mm-hmm.
Make them wear the raincoat.
Put the hard work in the first 5 years and it will pay off.
Exactly. They don't want to wear the raincoat, or they don't want to wear the flip-flops, or they don't want to, okay, well, that's fine, we're not going.
Mm-hmm.
Make them wear the raincoat. And no, we can't have that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just going to have to be okay. Put the work in, because what we're teaching our children is the submission to parental authority will transfer over into spiritual authority.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And what God requires and asks of us to do, or doesn't want us to participate in, that then leads us to that freedom.
Correct. It also builds a confidence. So if you're putting those lines in place with your children and you stick to them, they build a confidence. Just as I had that confidence to say no to things and it didn't matter to me, that was built because I felt secure and confident.
Mm-hmm.
From a very young age. And I know not everybody had the blessing of being raised by good Christian parents that loved you and did these things. But if you're a young mom now, build that confidence in your children, because that's where your security is built. In those young ages, 5 and under, if you're consistent with them, they're going to feel confident and secure because they know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to understand what happens in their life, and that will transfer over to following Christ.
Well, and also what you demonstrated with your children in that is you demonstrated to them, when you chose your times and places of service, they saw you serving, but they never saw it competing with the family that you and your husband had created and what God blessed you with. I think that's another point that I want to make sure that we get across is, and I've said this for years, that God is not going to call us to a place where it's going to complicate our life.
Correct.
It might shift things, but it's not going to cause an upheaval to where we're out of breath and we're coming into church, or we're coming in where on 2 wheels in an argument in the car.
Right.
It's going to complement our life. And he's not going to cause us to something that is going to contradict his word or confuse our current roles and what we're supposed to be doing.
And you don't want your children to ever feel like they're less important than anything else outside of that family unit, because then their security falls.
Right.
And like you said, God's not going to call you to something that's going to put that in jeopardy, to put anything in your family life in jeopardy, because he values family. I mean, from the very beginning of time, he values family. And so he would not call you to something that's going to take you away from that.
Right.
So there is a very doable way to serve, and to serve often without putting that in jeopardy, and serve with your family. I mean, my kids served. They went with me. I had a family, a couple that were elderly, couldn't get out. I don't even know how I heard about them, but we set up dinners for them for Sunday nights. And I would take my kids to that with me, and we would pray with the couple and spend time with them and just leave. It wasn't a long time, and I think I probably only took the dinner like once a month for a long time, and then other people, for whatever reason, couldn't do it anymore. So, but it was a very simple thing to do. I just made a little extra on Sundays and took it to them. They were shut-ins; they couldn't get out. Other days of the week were being taken care of by other people, and that was the day that I was doing it. And so they served with me. They saw that. And as they get older, they'll begin to serve more on their own too. So at least that's what my desire would be.
Right.
Because I think it's very important to serve. I mean, it's not a checklist thing. It's not something that's going to, you don't want to go, oh, I'm over here serving and all that kind of stuff. It just needs.
You said from the very beginning, it fuels you.
It does. It fuels me.
That is definitely your spiritual gift. And even if service is not your spiritual gift, it doesn't mean because it didn't rank high on your spiritual gift inventory that you're not supposed to be a part of it.
It's very biblical.
It's very biblical. Jesus came to serve, not to be served.
Correct.
So if we're looking at Jesus as our model in everything that we do, well, then it's pretty self-explanatory.
Correct.
Now, the level to which you serve, I believe, does
vary
and would need to be, I would definitely take one of those spiritual gift inventory tests. You can have one of those. There's PDFs of those all over the place online. So just put spiritual gifts inventory and you can take one of those. But and he also calls us sometimes to serve outside of our gifts because he wants us to stretch. He wants us to develop. It also depends on our prayer life. There's been times I know that I've prayed to be stretched in certain areas, and I have the opportunity to stretch. So keep those things in mind. Christie, tell us, you're in charge of planning for your student leadership team at your church, at your school. She works at a Christian school. How did you find out about the places to serve? Like how did you dig into that? So maybe this will give some people some ideas of, in their own communities or in their own places, something similar to what you've done.
Well, at the beginning, it was really hard because there's a lot of nonprofits out there, but it's kind of hard to get plugged in on how to serve them or how to volunteer with them. But now, honestly, they all have websites. They all have places that that say volunteer, and you just click on there and you're able to put your name in to serve. And they will let you know what they have available and what they have for you to do. A lot of them will have a list of things for you to do. But mostly by word of mouth, honestly. People will come up and say, now that I'm in charge of planning those, people will come up and say, I've worked with so-and-so, or I heard about this, or I heard about that. And I will just reach out to that group and do it and just see what they have and see if they have something for our students to do or for me to do or whatever. And we just go from there. So a lot of it's word of mouth. Once you start doing it, it happens more often.
Yeah.
But that first little bit, don't be discouraged if it's slow. It took me a while to find out how to find things for groups to do. Other things I just did at church. Like if they needed someone to serve the youth dinner, I just said, I'll do it. We would serve the football team once a year. I'll do that. Just be willing to say yes. If there's something that they're asking you to do, be willing to say yes. I know that I do get refueled from serving, and I know other people do not, and it's harder for them. And I try to always keep that in mind, but I will tell you, if you ever start doing it and you ever get in the habit of saying yes to serving and finding those things that you really enjoy serving in, it will you'll grow in that, and you'll feel better and better and better, and it, not that you're doing it to feel better, but it makes the willingness come easier. Because I really know that, we're here for just a few reasons, and one of them is to be the hands and feet of God, to be a great example of who Christ is, and trying to do our very best to do that.
To the saved and the unsaved.
To the saved and the unsaved, and to the easy and the not easy. I tell my children all the time, well, it's easy to love the lovable. That's easy. Christ calls us to love those that aren't easy to love.
Right.
And that's the challenging part. And whether or not that's somebody that is, I don't know, whatever is something that bothers you, somebody that's not nice, or somebody that lives on the street, or somebody that has some kind of situation that you're uncomfortable with, that's what can be difficult for you.
And that's probably where God's going to call you to serve, honestly.
Honestly, he's going to call you to serve somewhere where it's uncomfortable. But what you'll find is he's there with you. He's there with you the whole way, and you're not alone.
So nonprofits are a great place to start. Just so if you're looking for a place, especially, I know there's a lot of homeschool moms out there, and this is a great opportunity for you to, just do nonprofits in the area. And then also check your school.
That's what I was going to say.
Your school and also your church.
Schools always need somebody to read with children. If you're just willing to spend 30 minutes one day a week to read with children, they always need people to read to children.
Now, in this day, you probably have to go through background check and safety and security measures, which we're very grateful for those. But those are 3 simple places that you can really easy can jump in and serve or find out availability to serve. But certainly, the freedom that you've demonstrated in your life has been, Christie, has been, it's contagious for all of us that have grown up with you, because we know where she stands. I mean, we plan a beach trip. If it's on a birthday, she don't go. And I've always loved that about her. It doesn't mean she doesn't love us. It means she loves her family more. Well, I'm like right there, but
yeah, my family likes to say they know where they stand with Wendy.
But I know where I stand with her family, so it's an understanding, mutual understanding we have for one another. But that's the freedom that that Christ wants us to have.
It really is
to cherish and love the things that He cherishes and loves, and serve like He served. And He came to wash feet. He came to heal. He came to break bread with and to give food to. You just look at the life of Jesus and all the ways that He served. And He was fully man doing this, empowered by the Spirit of God in Him. So just like we are. So this is a place where it truly is, it's a marvelous place to end up, or to be, not end up, because it's not an ending journey. It's a cycle. It's a way of life. It's a wonderful place to be, because you can confidently say when someone calls and says, can you serve? And you say, I'm going to pray about it. You really are going to pray about it, and you really are going to seek the Lord. And you can confidently and securely go, you know what? This fits perfect with my timing, and this fits perfect with my resources, but it's not in my skill set, but yet I'm feeling the freedom to say yes because God wants me to.
Right.
We will know His voice at this point within the spiritual disciplines. You're going to know when the yes is a yes.
I would also say, don't fill your whole life with other things. Like, leave space for that, so that when they do call you, you do have space.
Like Tyler's birthday.
Birthday.
You had the space. And had he not called you that day to have lunch,
that's okay.
You would have been okay with that, and you would have still gotten to serve. But behind the scenes, you cleared the calendar for the just in case.
Right.
Exactly. That is a great thing to do. Is don't pack your life so fully with things that you don't have. You can't say, "Hey, I just don't have the time," but I really love to.
Right. And I don't know the answer to this, and maybe you can help me with this. But I know people. I have friends who. They get upset if they don't get the me time. they get upset when they have small children, if I didn't get to do this, I didn't get to do that, I'm missing out on this, I'm missing out on this, and in the meantime, they're missing out on the family. And in the end, who's there in the end? It's your family that's there in the end. And so I just take a step back and say, yeah, I might miss out on a few things now, but I got to do them before and I'll get to do them after. But while my kids are young, while my family's
18
young.
summers.
That's right. That's it. 18 summers with a child. And once they go to college, nothing's ever the same.
No, it's really not.
And they don't tell you about that part of raising children. But just remember, you do give up a lot of yourself, but yourself becomes that family. And just embrace it. And just know that you have time to serve, you have time to be with your family. Just prioritize it, look at it, and just make sure that you're leaving space for that.
And it's freedom.
It is. It's freedom.
Because you, at that point, you get to the place where you're like, you don't care.
Correct.
Now, I don't want to say you don't care. It doesn't bother you that you're missing out on another opportunity.
Correct.
Because things are aligned rightly with you and God. And like you said, you realize there'll be another opportunity to go on a women's trip, or there'll be another opportunity to do something. But your kid's only going to have this play this one time.
Correct.
Or this ball game this one time. Well, they have a whole season of ball games, yeah, but they're starting this week, or whatever it might be. Or it's your anniversary with your husband.
Yeah. Or something could happen if you're not there, honestly. I always thought, what if they had an injury and I wasn't there?
I know the one game that Griffin had his high score in basketball, I missed because I was at the Verizon store with my daughter. Now, Scott was with Griffin. We had to kind of divide and conquer that day, but I'll never forget the one I missed.
Right.
Can't get it back.
Correct.
So, anyways.
Just leave space in your life so that you do have the freedom to say yes when you're called to do so. And that is really huge. That is a huge part of it all, is to have space, because then you can have freedom. If you've got every minute filled, there's no
And we're not
space.
supposed to have every minute filled,
No, we're
and
not.
there's a deeper conversation there for later on. But we hope that this has encouraged you, it has blessed you, it has maybe given you some things to think about, especially mamas that are at home with their babies and think this is, golly, I just don't know how I'm gonna make it. I can't. I don't ever get to do anything. That's not true. You only have 18 summers, and it goes by really fast. And find some things to do together with your family. Find ways to serve with your family, and the freedom that you have in that. There's nothing worth sacrificing for that when you get to that freedom in Christ. It's the best thing ever. It's living fully the way Jesus lived while he was here. He made himself available and served, and that's our example. So thank you for joining us with this last.
Yes.
I mean, it may be last. I don't know. I've actually been thinking about, wonder if I just continued these 320 Life conversations later. But I've got to decide whether that's me or whether that's God. You know, sometimes I get in my own head and I don't know how to shut my own self up. So
You just get excited.
I get excited. That's it. I want to run and see. I want to fill my calendar. So I have to pray about that. But anyways, it's been a joy to be with you on the 320 Conversations. And I'm super excited that you got to meet my bestie of the best friend ever. And I hope that you have a bestie of the best. I really do. And you got to meet Sharon, who is another one of my best friends, and Sherry also. Great, well